Hello everybody and welcome back to the Lincoln Ranch. Today I'm doing a job that most of you can relate with, and that is headlight doors that won't stay shut. You can see on all of them, none of them out there, all the headlight doors are open because of the way they're designed with the spring. So today I'm going to show you how to modify them and they will never pop open again. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take the canisters out. I'll show you the canisters. Here is one disassembled already. I'll be honest with this one, I did a test run on them to make sure this was going to work before I made the video. So this is what the canisters look like. They're made out of a pot metal. Some of them are steel, stamped steel, but none of my Mark IIIs have a stamped steel unit. They all have these pot metal units. But the problem is, here's the spring that sits in here. And that's what pushes the door open. See the plunger's all the way down. The plunger's normally out here. So the spring pushes the plunger down and that pulls the headlight doors up. So to take this spring out, to delete this spring, yeah, it's stuck in there, it actually clips in there. But to take that spring out, you've got to disassemble the cans. But the problem is with these pot metal cans, which I can show you on this one here, there's a little tab there, that's a locating tab, the way these go together. So I do mark them where the tab is. But to get these apart, you've got to break this seal off. This is pot metal. You can't bend it out like a steel one and then tap it back into place. The moment you bend this out, it'll break. And I thought about, what about if I heat the pot metal up and make it more malleable? But the problem is, this gasket is right in there. You'll end up burning the gasket. Or not the gasket, but this bellows. It sits right in here, in this lip. It's actually locked in between the two units like that. And then the two halves come together. So to do that, unfortunately, you've got to break this seal off. And I broke the seal off this one, and I didn't clean it up too much. You can't see these things, they're out of sight. Once they're installed in the car, you can't see them. So I just took the sharp edges off. Here's pieces of it. This is what happens. These are the bits that break off. So they are like this. They go on there. I don't know how they do it at the factory, but in the factory it's crimped. They crimp it down without breaking them, but I've tried and tried and tried, because I've got a few spares. I cannot get this locking ring off without breaking the bellows, but I discovered a way to fix this. So I'm going to show you how to take these units out of the car. They can be a little bit finicky. The first thing we have to do is we have to take this cover off. It's a pot metal cover. It's got 3 screws and there is a rubber seal on the bottom. So you've got to but I'll show you once I start disassembling it. And then underneath, we've got to climb underneath the car. I don't think I need to jack it up, but there's 4 bolts holding this plate on. This is underneath, you're looking at underneath the car like that. And these do swivel, but you don't need to disassemble this off the pot, the canister. You can leave it on there. We don't need to undo that. It's just got a coach bolt and a nut. It just holds it in place. There is 2 different types of these canisters. These are out of something else. These were loose when I got the car. These have a smaller fitting. But all the Mark IIIs had this larger fitting. I believe this is 5/16. I could be wrong. Might be a little bit smaller than 5/16. This is our fuel line, not, yeah, this is not vacuum, but the diameter should be the same. Yeah, so it's a little bit smaller than 5/16, but that doesn't matter as long as your vacuum hoses are here. This is your vacuum canister and your hoses are here. And there's one hose on the top. Let me grab a flashlight so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because it's kind of dark down in there. I'll do this one. See if I can get it to stick. There is the hose right there. If you can see that, it just pops into there. But once we get it unbolted, we can disconnect. There's a hose on the top and there's another hose underneath. As long as these hoses aren't rotten or dried out, you should be able to reuse them. And in the front, when I get this off, there's a clip that's right in between here. That's the kind of the bit of a pain in the butt thing to get, but we've got to take this panel off. So let me get that set up, and then we'll go from there, and I'll show you how to get. This is what I'm talking about. This has lost all vacuum. The vacuum's gone, and that spring is forcing that canister to open the headlights, and we all want our headlights to remain like that. So that's why I'm going to modify today, so these headlights will never open up again. Whichever position you put them in, that's where they're going to stay. To get this door off, you just need a screwdriver. I'm just using the electric screw. You can do it by hand. Just put the screws away somewhere safe. You just grab the door and you just tip it up. Like I say, there's a gasket on here, so you kind of just got to work it out like that. There's like a rain seal gasket. It just pushes the water away. And while this is off, you can clean it up and paint it if you want, if yours are kind of weathered. These ones aren't too bad. This car is quite clean and original. Now the clip I'm talking about is right in there. I'll get a screwdriver and I'll point to it. The clip, let me try and get the light on this, see how. The clip is right here. It's one of those locking tab clips, so you got to pop it out. You probably really need two tools. You need one to pop it out, and then like a pick to pull the clip back, because these clips, you put them on backwards. You'd think you put them on that way, but you actually got to push it back towards where it's folded, because there's a larger opening at the back. And then when you push it in, you push the tab in, and then this little tab locks over the actual pin. I thought the pick would have worked, but two screwdrivers work. And you probably need just a little, extension magnet, because once the clip comes off, you don't want to lose it down in the Never Never Land. So you just put the magnet somewhere handy. And what you do is you flip this clip around to kind of, the back of it faces you where it actually locks. Actually, no, back to front, actually, sorry. I got it back to front. You do it this way. All the way around. It's just like that. Not all the way straight, just like on a 45-degree angle. And then you get your little screwdriver in here. You tip this up, tip that clip up. Like that. See, there it goes. Didn't even need the other screwdriver. Normally, I'll show you when I pull it out, I'll show you how it works. It kind of works backwards. So normally it locks in here. Oh, magnet's not working. It's a bit awkward. This would be the pin that's in there. It locks in there. When you lift it up, you've actually got to push it this way, not that way to the open side. You actually push it towards the folded side because it's locked that pin in there, and there's a larger gap. It doesn't really show up here, but not on this one, but the one underneath, there's a bigger hole in the back. That's where it kind of locks in. So you push the rod in here, and then it locks, and then this tab locks it in place. So that's now disconnected the arm. What you've got to do then is, with a screwdriver or a pry bar, is kind of just work it off. You may have to undo the bolts first because these things are tight. You may have to kind of wiggle the door a little bit, because there is the other problem too is there's a couple of modifications you've got to make to these canisters. So if you really want this 100% accurate, this is not going to work for you. But if you're not worried about it, because they're out of sight, out of mind, but they are the correct way to do it instead of using the electric. I tried the electrics and I did not like it. It works, but it is loud, noisy, and it just slams those doors open and shut. I like the slow movement of the actuators, and it's silent. You don't hear anything. The one thing we've got to do is, you see how this here where the pin is, where that's what we just disconnected, this thing here. To be able to pull these canister apart, you've got to grind that down a little bit. I just grind it right just down to where that pin is, because the pin's pressed in there, you can't get it out. They must have assembled these after the bellows was installed, because let me just put this here. Let's see if I can. To get this out of here, you've got to push this through here, and when there's you see even this one's still tight, but you cannot get that arm out of there. Let me just off camera, let me just install it and I'll show you what I mean. So this is how they are. So they look like I've actually got a grommet in there. Ignore the grommet. So that's how they are. But if you don't grind that off, you can't get it to go past. You see, I experimented with this first one, and to get this thing out of here, I actually cracked the housing, so this housing's no good now. But I've got spares, so because I wanted to make sure this was going to work. So now it's got room to get that arm out of it. It's still a little tight and awkward, but it does come out. You just got to kind of work it out. But if you leave that on there, it's too much, and this stuff is so fragile. It breaks at the slightest bump or anything. But like it does come out. See, there it goes. It does come off. So it goes on like that, and this bellows actually goes inwards like that. That's how it works. And then this half, I mark them, because once I've cut the other lip off, I can't find the spot. So before I cut them, I'd mark them together. See, that one just locked into place. That one went first time. But anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, just some things. If you guys, there's another modification we're going to make with this, so it won't be 100% correct. And the other thing too is, I've still got good bellows. See, this one's all ripped up. This one's no good. And these are not sealed. There is a little hole in here, because they do breathe. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to pull this thing up and down, because it would just create a vacuum. So this is a good one. There's a little hole here, and there's another little hole here. Ford just zip tied these on. I didn't think they used zip ties back in those days, but here's the little zip tie. And the bottom half is held on with a little steel washer. But the next job now, but I'm just saying this, guys, before you carry on, if you don't want 100% accuracy, you know, don't continue with this. But if you just want these doors to work, we can continue, and I'll show you how how to modify these canisters. And it works, it does work. So next job now is I've got to climb underneath and get those. You can see the upper half of those bolts there. There's one there, another one there, and two more in the back. And just carefully disconnect the vacuum hoses. There's actually a vacuum hose there. You can just make it out down there. And there's another one up here. So let's get that canister out of there. So now I'm going to show you underneath the car. I did jack it up. This is more for the camera than for the actual job itself. Just gives me more room for the camera. So set this light up. There are the four bolts that hold it in place. And there is the vacuum line. That's the bottom one. There's a couple of other things you got to check before you continue to. I think I'm going to offer this as a service if you guys or anybody's not willing to tear these canisters apart. I will do it, but there's a couple of things I got to show you that we need to go through before we continue with the canister, because there's a couple of things. If there's a couple of problems with the canister, we can't continue. There's no point tearing it apart because of corrosion. So if you guys are in the way up north or in the Rust Belt, there's big likelihood that your canisters are actually rotted out. But most of my cars are from the south. This car actually is from Delaware. It was sold new in Virginia, but it was owned by the I got the car out of Delaware from the original owners, but they had a Lincoln Mercury dealership. So this is from the original owner of the dealership. The dealership closed down. I believe they also had a Cadillac dealership. But yeah, this car is so original. It's nice. There's a little bit of, not corrosion, but I do see a little bit of acid peeling away the sealant, the undercoat. I probably do need to address that. But anyway, let's get these canisters out. There is a clip there. I've not pulled one of these canisters out myself. So you're learning as I'm learning. So there's the bottom hose, and there, if you see that, that is the upper hose that goes through the header panel and up to the top one. So you could probably just pull this hose off here, even if it breaks off at the end because it's a little hard and dry. There's enough hose here to just trim it back a little bit and then reuse the hose. But as long as it's not cracked along here, you should be able to reuse it. That's just a clip for the wiring. It holds the wiring in place. I think I can unpick that with needle nose pliers. Once I get it dropped down, I should be able to do it. But I'm going to get the socket set on there and take those 4 bolts out. This is kind of awkward doing this one-handed. They are 1/2 inch. Just hope this camera isn't too shaky, because I don't like that either, guys, when you're watching a video and it's so... I get motion sickness from watching guys with cameras when they're doing this. They're trying to walk around a car. It drives me insane. But this, I'm using a GoPro, but it doesn't have stability on it. I need to get the next model up. This is a 4 to 5. Now this freaking socket's stuck. There we go. So now I just got to wiggle that loose and just where's that flashlight? Get that pin to let go of that arm that's actually in the door. I just got to kind of wiggle it out of the way so it lets go, and then it should drop down. What I mean is this here. Get that to move over a little bit. There it goes. There we are. Just put the screwdriver, should be able to manipulate it a little bit. You may have to grab the door and just kind of wiggle the door. I'm trying to do this with one hand, guys, so it's a little awkward. But yeah, you got to get that rod out. This is the actual lever for the door. This one here. And it's just catching on the edge there because the door's got to be slightly closed, but I can't do it with one hand. So I have to put the camera down and do it with two hands. So I got it popped out. It is a bit of a pain. You got to kind of, you do have to jiggle this door up and down a little bit. Let me set this here. You do have to manipulate the door quite a bit to get that, because it's not flat. It kind of, that bracket there kind of drops off, and the back corner just catches the actuator arm, and there is your upper hose. So if you can disconnect that hose from there, can't quite get the light to go in my favor. This flashlight keeps falling down, so you just gotta break the seal on that hose. But you know what I mean, guys. Just get that hose, maybe needle nose pliers, just kind of twist it around a little bit before you. There's nothing magnetic here. This door is pot metal, so it won't nothing stick to it, and there's a stainless steel, and it doesn't want to. I'm having trouble getting this flashlight to work for me. But I got all the bolts out, so all we got to do now is just disconnect that hose, and those canisters should fall out. Another thing, like I say, guys, this is the first time I'm doing this. Another thing I've noticed is, get this flashlight just to sit there for a minute. Those tabs where it's bolted into, you got to push them all the way in. They kind of are in the way. You see this one, they are loose. You just, with a pry bar, just kind of slide them inwards. Like I said, I'm trying to do this without bumping the flashlight, and I'm holding the camera. But you just, this is awkward. Guys have always complained about doing these. They hate them. But you just gotta. They do move, but it's awkward doing this with one hand. Just kind of get a pry bar. See, there it goes. It pushed it in, so now the canister can get past them. Just a little bit more. Bring it over it. There. Damn flashlight. Just gonna push it right in as far as it'll go. And then you should be able to get that canister out. There it goes. Just pull the canister down, disconnect that hose, and pull the canister down. So I got the canister out. It actually is better to pull this hose off. Pull this hose off before you unbolt it. It just makes it easier to manipulate the hose, because the canister keeps wanting to twist and turn and go with the hose when you try to pry it off. So pull that hose off before you bolt the canister from underneath. But here's the canister. It's still in nice shape. The bellows are still good. So we are going to actually rebuild the one out of the car. So I'm going to put these ones aside. And do this one. So the first thing I've got to do, the first thing you've got to check, guys, is put this in a vise. Let me just put the camera over here. Put this in a vise. This is the first thing we've got to check on a canister before we go anywhere else. We have to snip off. Let me put you in the stand. So what we're going to do is snip that little zip tie off and just pull that off like that. And now it's got to have it in the vise. And just use a pair of vice grips, because we have to look at something before we continue. Put a pair of vice grips on here, lock it in there so it doesn't come off. This will pull out, so you're going to pull the. What we've got to check is if that shaft is rusty, this is not going to work, because the where is this one? Because there's a seal, there's another vacuum seal underneath this that goes in here, that actually fits in here. If this shaft is rusty, then it's just going to let the air leak. It shouldn't really matter, because we're taking the spring out, because whichever way we vacuum this down, that's the position it's going to stay in. So when we suck this down through here, it's going to pull this up, and that spring is not going to return it. But it just makes sure the canisters are not rotted away from salt if you're up in the rust belt. And just check this shaft that it's not. This one's still nice, it's clean. I did hear air leaking when I turned the car off, and I heard this door. This is the passenger side one. It was airing out. I could hear it leaking. But you know, look at the size of this spring. That is a massive friggin' spring. It's got to compress. There's no way, you know, vacuum's going to stay locked in there for long with a spring like that. The tiniest little pinhole, it's going to force it out. But like I say, with no spring in there, that rod is going to come all the way out, and it's going to stay out. But now, what I do now is, with a Sharpie, you can see there's a little locking tab there. I just put a little arrow there and a little arrow here, so I know where these two, because once this is broken off, you can't see where this line was. This here doesn't show up anymore because it's broken off, and we've got to kind of clean it up. So you just put a little dab on there, dab there. But as long as you've got these two arrows pointing at each other, we're good. You can put two on there if you want. This thing's dried out. If you want to put two on there. But the thing now is, with a screwdriver and a hammer, because there's no way to get this off, we have to chisel this lip off like that, and it just rips right off. You see what I mean? You just work it all the way around. And then I'll show you what I did with I didn't get too carried away of cleaning it up, because no one's ever going to see it. With a little whiz wheel, once you get the whole thing off, you can get the two apart. It shouldn't explode in your face, because the spring slowly starts to work its way. I just went round with a whiz wheel and just took the worst off the edge. This edge where you ripped it. So let me finish that off, and then we'll go to the next step. But first of all, we'll get this off here. I just wanted to show you that. We'll get this. You can lock this in a vise. Like I say, we don't have to take that plate off. If you're not worried about sandblasting this and making it all look pretty again, no one's ever going to see it, and paint your plate black. We'll just leave it at this. And so now I just got a little pair of vice grips, and there's a little ring here, and you'll see 4 little tabs where it's been crimped. So with a little tiny pair of vice grips, I try to, usually they do break, but you don't need to use those ones again. You just got to bring that tab back just a little bit, just straighten it out so you can get that. There's a steel washer in here like that, and I just go like that and just bring it back, and then with a screwdriver or a pick you should be able to go in here and see, and just pop that ring out. This ring holds this bellows in place. What I usually do is just, if it's still good, oh damn, I'm out of fluid. Sorry about that. I had to put some water in here. Just soap it up a little bit, just so it slips. And then you grab this and you just work it. You can stick a screwdriver in there and just kind of pry it off there like that, because you've got to get it past that tab. There we go. So you just work it off. That's if these are good. If it's all ripped up, just cut the damn thing off. You don't need it. But this kit, you can buy these and the seal, but it's a extra $30. So if you can save 30 bucks, I'll save $30 because I'm poor. So there's the bellows, and there's this one still. It's a little bit inside out. I've got to get in here and pop the thing out, but you know what I mean. There's a little. It's kind of pulled itself inside out. So you just kind of push the thing back out. There it goes. So like that. See, here's the other one. It's still a little bit inside out, but it looks like that. So if you can save these, that's a $30 expenditure you don't need. Let's see if I can get this thing out. Like I say, these are not airtight. So even if I did poke a little bit of hole, but there's going to be a zip tie on anyway. These have holes in them because this thing has to breathe. Because otherwise, if you locked it down, you hear it? It won't work properly. This is just a dust cover for the shaft. That's all it is. So now I can show that shaft again with the dust cover off. As long as it's not rusted right, this is quite heavy, guys. As long as it's not rusted right at the bottom, we're good. Now I like to pull this gasket off, this seal off. This seal's still good. There's nothing wrong with it. After I've done it, I'll do it from the inside and work it out, because otherwise you might rip that. And again, we don't want to rip it. So let me finish peeling this off and then we'll go to the next step. The metal ones are just crimped, they're just sheet metal. You can actually peel those back, but they say you can't use these ones after you've separated them, but I thought of something and it did work. See, it's already starting to separate. Just keep going. It's almost there. There it goes. So there. What I tried to do is, without having to get this seal off, I tried to roll the ring off this way, but it gets so tight in here that it actually pinches the rubber, and you don't want to punch a hole in this. This rubber's still good. It's still soft and supple. Look how clean it is on the inside. The other one, it's had water in there. It's all rusted out. I don't know, you can see, you guys can see that it's all rusty. I do have a sandblasting cabinet, but this one is still beautiful and clean inside. So the only way to get this spring out is through this hole. So now, see on the inside there, what I do is take the tension off this. So I take the spring and just pop it out, because this thing's under tension. You don't want it under tension, so you can move that shaft. So just go like that. You see what I mean? If I try to roll this, see the spring's already pinching it here, and it gets tighter and tighter in here, you end up wrecking the destroying the rubber. So now I can get to this grommet in here. Well, yeah, it is basically just a grommet, and just kind of push that grommet out without trying to destroy it. It's easier from this side to pop it out, because it's larger on the outside than the inside. I have one here. Where is it? I had one laying here. It might be in the house. That's the top off one, because this one's like plastic. It's all hard and brittle. But anyway, so the next thing is to get this shaft out. I mean, I cut myself. See, it's a bit of a job. The spring bit me. I've got to get this out without destroying it. And the same thing, I just soapy water, and it just flips over. But we have to get it out, because I've got to get this shaft out of there. And like I say, I just get a grinder. I grind this off, because I'll show you. Actually, I won't grind it, and I'll show you what happens if you don't. It just won't come out of there. It just, there's too much overhang here to kind of manipulate it around. It catches up to about here, so you've got to round this off. So like I say, guys, if you want 100% accuracy in these canisters, there's no point carrying on with this. But if you're not worried about it and you just want it to work on the vacuum, continue. So let me get this grommet off, and then we'll carry on for the next step. So the best way I've found to do it is just get 2 screwdrivers and just kind of very carefully pry it, and it pops out. This one it just popped out just then. Remember, if you put the canister in the vise, do not, only just squeeze it just enough to hold it. If you over squeeze it, you're going to bust the canister off. And then same with a bit of soapy water, just like that. You just work it up. And you can get a little screwdriver in there if it's still pliable. If it's a plastic, if it's turned into hard plastic, it won't work. But if it's still soft and malleable, just get the little screw over like that. There we go. So just pop it off, and this one's still good. And now you'll see what I mean. See, it catches on that tab, so you just got to round it off. And I'll round this one off. Just lock it in the vise. I'm just using the flat wheel, so I don't want to use a stone because it's too coarse and it'll rip into it. So now it should pop out. You still got to manipulate a little because it's still tight, but at least it didn't bust the housing. And now we leave. Now there's plenty of meat on there. There's there's hardly any pressure. So now you can work the spring back and just pull that spring off there, and you can do whatever you want with that spring, like trash. So now we start putting it back together. Anyway, it's just a reverse of what we did. Like I say, this one, that car is a very low mileage car. You can still see it's no rust in there. Normally this is the side that gets water in it, because when the car's driving down the road, and this is in between the headlights, water splashes in here, and the water does get inside these little vent holes, and it does drip in there if it's leaking at all. But, there is a, yeah, like I say guys, if your bellows and this seal is completely gone, there is an actual kit for it, but I'm trying to save $30, so I'm not gonna. And this is still, there's nothing wrong with this. Like I say, just a zip tie on there, and this thing, what like sometimes you'll break the little tabs off where you just tap it in the other corner, in the other. Normally you only need to do 3 because it'll flip out. Like the one here is hard to get to, but if you just give it a little tap here and here and here to lock that washer back in place, that's all it needs. You don't have to try and use the original tabs, because they'll probably just break. So you just, with a little screwdriver, whatever you want to use, just tap it so it bends it in a little bit and hooks onto that ring. You can see this one's still in a little bit, and that one I haven't touched that one, so it hooks it. But if you need to, I do have a sandblasting cabinet. I can sandblast it to make it all bright and shiny again. But this is an original car. I'm not restoring this car. I just get sick of the headlights popping up, and sometimes you'll get one like this blue car. I've got a headlight door that sticks, so I'll have one door that opens, and one of them kind of hangs like that. That's what it does. It's so freaking annoying and embarrassing when you're supposed to have a beautiful car like this and your doors don't work. This one actually doesn't have any actuators in it. See, just the actuators have been removed out of this. So I'm going to do this one next, but at night when it gets dark and I'm ready, I just whip the doors open and then drive home. But I want to get this car perfect. Look under here, it's still all original under here. Still has the tab on the radiator. I think this car only has 54,000 miles on it. I've got to check the cruise control. My cruise control's quit working. I don't know if my bellows down the back there have got a little pinhole in them and it's not holding a vacuum. But I brought a smoke machine to do all that sort of work. Here's the smoke machine to find vacuum leaks. But anyway, let's get back to one of these and put it together, and I'll show you the one modification that's not going to make it look correct. But it's the only way to do it with these pot metal canisters. So now I've just got to put this in the vise again and just finish picking this stuff off and clean it up. I cleaned up the surface on this one. I just used the flap. Normally I use this little whiz wheel, but this one's getting a little dull. But I just used a flat grinder just to clean it, and I kind of missed that spot where there was a tab here. And if you look here, so these two tabs have to go together. It has to line up. It all just has to do with the lining up of this hose, so it goes towards the. It can be a little bit off, but you don't want it all the way around, because then your hose won't reach or line up properly. So now we have to put this back together, and this is the one I just pulled apart because This is the first one I did, but I ended up cracking it because I didn't realize I had to grind off that edge. So that one probably could be used in an emergency, maybe with a little bit of, just a little smear of JB Weld all the way around, just to make sure it's level and flat, so that seal does sit on it. So now, this one's nice and clean inside, no corrosion. Now that the spring is gone, we can put this back together like so, and you just flip that in there like that. That's how you do it. And then when you grab the other half, it doesn't matter which half you use, you just line those, you line these up, and the gasket just kind of, you've got to kind of manipulate the gasket a little bit, but then it falls into place. But first, what I'm going to do is, while I've got this open, is get this grommet back in there. And again, just a little bit of lube, just so it doesn't, not as likely to rip. Just put a little bit of lube on there, put it on there like that, and again with a little screwdriver, you just work it like that. All you're doing is just flip it over and roll it down. There it goes. And then you just work it in there. This is the most awkward part, is getting this thing to seat back in there. It's kind of tight. So what I like to do is get a little piece started, get one end started, and it's in there. And then very, very gently with a little pick, just come around and you just walk that seal around like that. But you don't want to dig in it too hard because you'll end up cutting it or ripping it. So just very carefully work this gasket back in there. Sometimes you can push it in with your fingers, but it is tight. See, it's popped out again, so just kind of work it in. You just want that thing to keep your fingers on there so it doesn't pull out again. Just pull that back. You just gotta work that gasket. It is tight, guys. Hopefully you can see it in the camera. But I find it's easier to do it from the inside. This is the hardest part of the job, is getting this thing to reseat. Because this thing keeps flopping around, and sometimes it flops around, then it actually pulls on that grommet and whips out again. Come on, get in there. It's actually going in by itself. It's pulling itself in there. Yep. So it just, once I get it past a certain point, it actually itself tries to pop into the position. So now with the spring gone, this thing just sits in there like that, all nice and snug. This is the one we had. So now I just got to align these two canisters, and you'll feel the gas. There's actually a little ridge in here, a little lip, and there's a little shoulder on this gasket, and this gasket kind of pops into place. You know, it's not hard, but it's just, you just got to manipulate it a few times, and then you feel it kind of, you feel the gasket kind of slide into position. So there it goes, just popped in. This is now, and you should be able to, you can hear it, hear the thing. But here is the part where this canister is not going to be correct. If you're building a show car or you want this car absolutely 100%. But the other thing I've got to remember, you've got to remember too, guys, is when you've got this lined up like this, I should have done this before, I forgot about this. You've got to get this arm lined up like that. I just got to look at the car. Let me look at the car, because I can't remember if this is the front or that's the front. Just got to double check that, which way that those pins go. So yep, so the narrower ones go to the front. So this is the front, and that should be correct, because yeah, because I remember the hose was on the passenger side of the car. The hose is on the other. They're both the same canister. There's not a left or a right, so they're both the same. But what I forgot to say was, when you put this together, this has got to line up straight with the if you remember which way the pin was when you pulled it off, it was that way, because I remember prying it off to the left, to my left. And then you just kind of jiggle this around a little bit. It kind of just pops. It does it every time. Just kind of, the other one's the same. It just popped in position, and you feel it kind of settle in. So I'm going to get these two lined up. So like so. Got to keep those arrows together so you know where the hose goes. Sometimes it just immediately just pops right in, and other times you just got to manipulate it a little bit. Just got to make sure that the rubber is completely flat too. So it's nearly there. One half popped in, I felt it. This side's not popping in. There it goes, it's in. And those two are lining up. So you just kind of keep that like that. So here is the part, what makes it non-original. I just want to sit there so it doesn't fly apart. You've got to get these. These are called a turbo V-clamp. It's not like a normal hose clamp. These are just normal flat hose clamps. This actually has a V notch welded into it. And what you do is take the nut off, just pull them apart. So this, you just put this on here like so. And you put them together, and you just kind of just work the rod back in there, the bolt. And there's just, this is a 2.25 V-clamp. A 5 inch is too small, so I used a 2.25. And just tighten that up. You don't have to over tighten these, guys. Just, you know, don't go crazy on it. And I don't know if it's metric or a 10. I'm thinking it's an 11 mil. So just crank it down just a little bit, and that's it. Then the next part we do is you pull this out, and it stays out. So now your doors are shut, and they stay shut. Now we get this, and we do the same thing with this. You just spray a little bit of lube inside it just to get it going, and you pull this little bellows over it. Hopefully I got that in the camera. You just keep going till you just walk it all the way down. Then you find the end, and then the same, just with a little. This one has got a little hole in it, but it's got a hole right where the zip tie is going to go, so it shouldn't hurt it too much. You just pry it off like that, and it's on. And then you just grab your ring, you sit that on there, kind of clip it in there. You might want to do this in the vise again, just so it's nice and tight and firm, so you can smack it with a hammer. Bring you over. I wish this camera had a zoom on it too. It's okay, so that's good. That'll work. So you just pry that clip and just wash it down, kind of get it seated in there again. Just tighten that up. I didn't quite bend it out far enough. There it goes. It just popped in. Just pop this side in. There it goes. It's back in. Just tap it. Put it in the vise a little tighter. Like I say, you just grab a screwdriver or whatever you want to use. You just smack it like that. Make sure that's down. Just on an angle. All you want to do is put a pinch in there. And this one should be good. Then another one over here. There. So that's it. And then, like I say, originally these were zip tied. And that's what I'm going to do. Just zip tie it back on. I have a big bag of zip ties here. Just these are not Harbor Freight ones. These are just. I actually got these from Napa, but I just bought an assortment bag. You can actually start it like that. There's actually, if I pull this down, see there's actually a little lip in there, a little ridge. That's where that sits, like that. So you just make sure it's in that position. There you go. If you want to trim it off, you can trim it off. I've seen them in different colors on the car, so it doesn't matter if it's normally they're white or black, but they did use both. They used black and white zip ties. But this is the only thing that's not correct. But like I say, if you're not worried about 100% correctness, this clamp, you can't see the unit once it's in the car. So that's it. I'm going to do the same for the other one, and then I will look at that. See, it stays there. It stays out where you want it. Otherwise, if I let that go, it would bounce straight back in because the spring would have pulled the bellows in. But now, see, it's there. It stays there. It's not going anywhere. And I can also demonstrate it. I'll show you a little demonstration. It's kind of a little jerry-rigged, but it does work. I'll show you. If you want to test it, just bring the camera back and aim it. Wish this damn thing had zoom. So I have a little, this is actually an air conditioning pump, and it just doesn't have to be perfect vacuum or seal. The slightest bit of vacuum in this thing and it's going to pull it in. Plug this in. So this is just a vacuum pump for air conditioning, like I say. And you just put that hose on there, you leave it running, doesn't matter, just put the hose on the fitting, you watch. There you go. And it stays there. And if I go to here, I can find it, Yeah. See, pulls it back in. So I've got both canisters rebuilt. Here is the other one. I did notice, because this is the first time I've pulled them out, that these arms on the other side, this arm is in the opposite direction. So if you look at these, you can see what I mean? Just the way they're and I noticed also on this other canister that the tube is on the back, not in the front, like so. See that? Just the way they routed the hoses. The driver's side, the outlet is, the vacuum port is on the back of the car, and on the passenger side it's at the front. Get the hoses right here. So this is the driver's side one. So I'm going to climb underneath and bolt it back in. Bring it back a little bit. Move my... Alright, found the bolt. So you just got... I've already got the car jacked up for the camera. You could do this with the car right on the ground. Mount my flashlight. Whip the canister back in there. Using a swivel. There's one bolt that's right underneath the bumper bracket. Can't get a straight socket in it, so you need a little swivel. But it's in. Hook the wire back up. Put the hose back on. And this bottom half is done. There. So I'll show you what I did. So you just gotta, this bracket's kind of in your way, you gotta kind of twist it round. So the 4 bolts are back in, the wire clip's back in, hook the hose up, and now we just go up here and reconnect the top half. Open that door, so I got to put this camera somewhere so it's not in my way and I can sit in my little chair, little stool. Because now I've got to snap that arm back on there. That is, now I've got it lit up. See, I've got to, just a minute, grab a screwdriver. I've got to put that arm back in this hole. There's a little slot here. So you've got to kind of manipulate the door a little bit. So probably big old long needle nose pliers. So this is probably going to be a two-hander. So I've got to come in here, go like that. You can hold the door from up top. Just kind of push it over. You can see the hole. There it goes. It's just about in. And then with a pry bar, just kind of snap back in. There it is. It's back in. So now it's hooked up. And just push that with the same with the needle nose pliers. Just push that hose back onto this fitting. And then we just got to put the little snap back on there, the little lock snap. So let me do that because I've got to get right in front of this guy, so you're not going to be able to see much. So it's all back together, guys. And I'll start the car up and open and close the headlights. And then I'm going to leave it sitting overnight and should still be like that tomorrow morning. Normally this car, one of them opens up almost immediately and the other one is a little slower. And that auto dimmer works. You guys can see that. It's the automatic headlight dimmer. Take the keys out. So now I'm just going to let the car sit here tonight, and if everything's right, it should still be shut tomorrow morning because there's no spring to push them back now, so they're going to stay there. So I'll see you guys in the morning. Good night. Welcome back, guys. So it's the next morning, and as you can see, they are still closed. So this worked out perfectly. So I'm really happy with this. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, please hit the like, subscribe, and leave a comment what you think. But I'm very happy with this, so this is going to work. And I'll show you what it looks like underneath. You can barely see that I've put those clamps on there. Just grab a flashlight. There is the canister. You can just barely make out the band on there. And the same on this one. There's the upper hose, and the upper hose on this one is on the front, to the front. So yeah, this is awesome. Finally got these doors to stay shut. When I first got the car, they would stay shut for probably about a day, maybe. Sometimes I got 2 days out of it, but the more I drove this car, the headlights started opening, you know, faster and faster. Now, within say a minute, I would shut the car down and I would hear the doors creaking open. But they've been sitting here all night. They're not going to open because there's no spring, so they can't be pushed back. So whatever direction you put the vacuum, that's how they're going to stay. So I've got another set here. I think I've got this one. Yeah, that's, I can rebuild that one, and that's I can still rebuild this one, even though it's got that little crack in it. I might just put a little smear of JB Weld on that just to This is for my own use, I'm not selling these. But just put a little smear of JB Weld just to smooth it out. Then I can get that that seal back in there to sit in case it does leak. But even if it does leak, it's still not going to move. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. So thanks for tuning in, guys, girls, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. Do a quick walk around in this car. This is an all original car. Even the rim blow works. It's a little dirty. There's quite a bit of dust on here. But yeah. Okay. Bye bye, guys. See you on the next one.